Members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the press conference of Energy Taiwan 2022.
后开且各位贵宾，我们
Ladies and gentlemen, our press conference is going to start in 3 minutes. Please kindly take your seat. As a friendly reminder, please switch off your mobile phones or to the vibration mode. Thank you for your cooperation.
是。我们的活动马上。
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start momentarily. Please kindly take your seat. Thank you. Distinguished guests, members of the press, good afternoon. Welcome to the press conference of Energy Taiwan 2022. My name is Tracy, your MC for today. I'm pleased to share with you that this year's Energy Taiwan show will be held in Hall 1 of Nangang Exhibition Hall 1 for 3 days starting for tomorrow. This year's show will not only reach a record height of 1,000 booths, but also will have 2 brand new exhibitions which will be introduced to you later in the press conference today. So let's all look forward to it. Before the press conference starts, we would like to introduce our distinguished guests joining us today to you. And please stand up and wave the audience when you hear your name called. First of all, please join me in welcoming Ms. Gao Xiangui, Deputy Minister of the National Development Council, NDC. Welcome. Also, we'd like to welcome Ms. Elena Lee, Executive Vice President of TAITRA, Taiwan External Trade Development Council. Welcome. Third off, Mr. Terry Cao, CMO and President of SEMI Taiwan. Also, Vice President Xu Zaohua from TPC, Thai Power Company. Next, let us welcome President Andy Shen of Solar Business from United Renewable Energy. Let's also welcome Ms. Christy Wang, Taiwan General Manager of Worsted. Last but not least, let's welcome Senior Director Paul Ai from the Energy System Solution Business Department of Delta Electronics. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today, we're honored to have the Deputy Minister of the NDC, Ms. Gao Xiangui, to join us at the Energy Taiwan press conference to share with us the progress of Taiwan's net zero transformation. Please join me in welcoming Deputy Minister Gao to say a few words. President from SEMI, Executive VP Lee from TAITRA, Vice President Xu from Thai Power, President Shen from United Renewable Energy, Taiwan General Manager Wang from Ørsted, and Senior Director Ai from Delta Electronics, members from the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to extend appreciation to our co-organizers today, Taitra and SEMI, because we're about to kickstart this 1 week Energy Taiwan 2022. They have provided an excellent platform to gather businesses in this sector from home and abroad for this 1 week exchange. They have also played a critical role in helping the government embark on the path towards net zero transformation. It's my great pleasure today to make this brief presentation. So my title today is Realizing Taiwan's Net Zero Transformation Through PPP, or Public-Private Partnership. I think when it comes to net zero transformation, we face 3 drivers globally. It's not something we shall wait until 2030 or 50. It's an urgent issue facing all of us. As we move towards net zero transformation, what has the government been doing? Of course, the actual pathway will be launched by this year end, but I think we would like to take this opportunity to call on both the public and private sector to come on board to achieve the target. Last year in the Glasgow COP26 meeting, we saw nearly 200 countries pledging to review their existing or more aggressive carbon reduction targets by year end. We hope that by the end of this century, we can reduce the temperature increase globally to below 1.5 degrees Celsius. And the so-called codification of net zero has been seen across the world. Around 130 countries have pledged to net zero targets. On the other hand, major businesses around the world have also made their commitment to decarbonize. At the same time, green finance has become a new trend. Actually, as of 2020, the AUM of ESG-related funds has topped $35.3 trillion. Now, among the 137 countries that have pledged to net zero emissions, 18 of them have enshrined the target in domestic laws, and 39 countries have formulated relevant policies. The European Parliament back in June this year has already passed the Fit for 55 package with the first reading. That is a 55% reduction in this package. They also passed the CBAM mechanism, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. It was originally expected to hit the road by 2026, so all the imports into the European Union need to pay relevant fees or taxes under the CBAM mechanism. But now it's being extended 1 year down the road to 2027, but the scope has been broadened from cement, steel, all the way to ammonia, hydrogen, and organic chemicals. And from 2024 to 2027, all the imports into EU need to declare their carbon footprint and carbon emissions. So are there any offsets or voluntary programs? Let's say if you already have carbon fee mechanism in your home country, you will enjoy certain deductibles. So as of July 2022, 48 countries have already implemented carbon tax or ETS system, which accounted for 30% of global total emissions. In Taiwan, our Climate Change Response Act has been reviewed and is now set to be passed in the legislature in this current session. So the carbon fee has already been enshrined in our Carbon Climate Response Act. Once the act has been passed in the session, the carbon fee mechanism will be launched or introduced in Taiwan within 6 months. In the future, carbon emissions actually will come with a price. Now, a lot of well-known or renowned global businesses have signed up to initiatives such as RE100, EV100, and EPI100. They have committed to, for example, 100% renewable energy procurement or leveraging low-carbon vehicles or to reduce energy efficiency. In Taiwan, we have 21 signatories to RE100 among the 300. And we find that a lot of leading companies have actually made more ambitious targets to reduce their carbon emissions. Take Apple, they want to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030, and zero carbon energy for Google, net zero emissions from Facebook. A lot of SMEs in Taiwan are suppliers to these tech giants. For example, Apple, this year, according to their top 200 suppliers, 43 actually based in Taiwan. We are the second largest source of Apple suppliers around the world. So let's say if you cannot meet Google's targets or reach net zero, you will lose the order from Apple. And if you are not ESG compliant, you will receive less funding from investors. Now, when it comes to green finance, I think we can learn from the EU example. In the past 1 or 2 years or so, they have introduced some relevant guidelines and regulations. They hope that they can ban the action of greenwashing because a lot of businesses claim they are actually compliant, but that's not really the case. So now we see that there's a EU taxonomy regulation, SFDR, and CSRD being introduced one after another. And closer to home, our FSC, our financial regulator, issued the Green Finance 2.0 action plan. So listed companies with a paid-in capital of more than $2 billion should issue their CSR reports. And now we have this listed company sustainable development pathway. So by 2024, they will have to conduct their emission inventory audit by 2027. Among other requirements. And last month, the FSC issued the Green Finance Action Plan 3.0 governing the FIs. They hope to encourage the FIs to embrace green finance more comprehensively. So we'll see by this year end, we'll see the introduction of green evaluation guidelines. Now, the FSC of Taiwan and EPA Taiwan have also been working on having our own taxonomy in order to have quantifiable measures to evaluate green performance. So with this international trends, zero carbon emissions or net zero emissions become a must for Taiwan. Now, in Taiwan, we know this March, our NDC has worked with all relevant ministries to issue the 2015 carbon reduction pathway for Taiwan with several key milestones. We have 12 key or core strategies. And by year end, we will announce the details of the 12 core strategies. So allow me to briefly explain to you how we came about this net zero pathway in 2050. By 2019, let's take a look at our total emissions. It's about 200 million plus CO2 equivalent. There are two major sources. So 52% came from renewable power generation sector. And as for residential or commercial sector, it's about 33%. And let's say if we want to achieve net zero by 2050, the first thing we have to do is to reduce the emission from the major emitters from energy producing companies. So these companies need to transform to net zero. So we need to decarbonize our electricity by having 60 to 70% of energy from renewable, 9 to 12 from hydrogen, fire and CCUS 20 to 30%, and 1% from pumped hydro. As for non-power sector, there are commercial and business sector. We hope they can first go about electrification. So in the future, we see a rising demand for zero carbon electrification. But if they fail to electrify, in some cases, we need to rely on new energy sources to make up for the lag, together with CCUS to make up for the lag. There are a lot of industrial processes that cannot be electrified, so we have to tap into new energy sources. So even if we fail to electrify or use new electricity sources, we can rely on forest carbon sink as an alternative. So now these are some of the concrete steps we should take before reaching net zero. Of course, we need to conduct energy transformation. We want to reduce the 50% of emissions from the power sector. They need to decarbonize. So my point is that energy transformation should be the first thing before anything else as we achieve net zero by 2025. And also when it comes to the industry, construction, transportation or service sector all need to transform. We also need to change our lifestyles in all aspects. Also, social transitions also can play an important role because there may be some certain groups of the society that are more vulnerable to the transformation. We cannot have everyone being the winners. Now, about the foundation in governance, we should focus on technology R&D. We should leverage latest technology. We cannot just go on business as usual. So technology R&D is key. Actually, Taiwan boasts its digital prowess. This is something we can build on as we transform into the net zero future. We will definitely rely on digital technologies to achieve our target. In terms of climate legislation, we have carbon pricing and green finance being enshrined in our law to be passed. Now, we actually have selected several key milestones. For example, building, transportation, industry, and electricity. We have come up with several milestones. In terms of electricity, by 2050, we'll ban the construction of coal-burning fire plant, and we'll have 100% smart grid in the future. In terms of EVs, for all city buses and intercity buses by 2030 will be fully electrified. And for all the new vehicle cells or scooters will have to be 100% electric. These are the milestones we have established, and after that, we proposed 12 core key strategies. So these 12 strategies are consistent with our milestones and our pathway. We want to take concrete action. Now, we see the 12 core action plans. So the MOI, MOTC, EPA, Taiwan, and MOEA are all coming on board. We see that energy transformation has a lot to do with hydrogen, wind, solar, PV, innovative energy, power systems, energy storage, energy saving, and efficiency. Industry transformation also is a cross-cutting thing on many of the core strategies. So towards the end, we will see some of the details behind those 12 core strategies and how our relevant fundings will be utilized. We will set up different goals in different phases. Now, about energy transformation, I mentioned that most importantly, we need to establish a zero carbon energy system. So solar and wind power will be indispensable, which is also the key for this week's exhibition. So by 2026, the MOEA sets a target that we will boost the renewable energy to achieve 20% of our energy mix. And by 2030, our solar energy will see an inclusion of 2 gigawatts of installed capacity, 1.5 gigawatt for wind. So there will be 8 billion kilowatt hours of energy, or sufficient to supply 2/3 of our need. And after 2030, we need to break out of our current spatial limitations. For example, we need to increase efficiency for wind and solar. There will be floating wind being deployed down the road. As for hydrogen, of course, which is very critical, we are now still lagging behind in this space, but we still need to catch up because it's still a cornerstone technology. A lot of vehicles or processes will rely on hydrogen power. The MOEA has established a committee on hydrogen energy. We are looking to work with our neighboring countries to collaborate on hydrogen energy. After 2030, well, hydrogen will be applied in coal-fired power plant for coal combustion in some of our pilot projects. And after 2030, hydrogen power will become a dedicated standalone energy sources. So it's all in this planning stage. Now, secondly, as we rely more heavily on renewable energy, grid resilience should be strengthened. As we embark on net zero transformation, we need to ensure energy stability in Taiwan. The MOEA previously has already proposed the grid resilience plan with 564.5 billion NT dollars of funds. There will be the plans to make energy grid smarter and to increase the resilience of grids and increase their energy storage capacity. These are some of the highlights of the plans down the road. Green transformation presents us new sets of opportunities for businesses. So I think we need to build a national team to develop offshore wind power to build a comprehensive supply chain. So industry transformation has a lot to do with the manufacturing, commercial, transport, and construction sector. There will be the utilization of green power and circular economy. And for the business sector, a lot of players are still using coal-fired power, so we encourage them to decarbonize their energy consumption and change their behaviors. As for the transportation sector, the government actually has been subsidizing the adoption of EVs. We will also enhance the battery exchange or charging infrastructure in Taiwan. As for the construction sector, it's quite straightforward. We start from the public sector to take the lead in some of the pilot projects to drive the wider adoption in the private sector, and we will start from older buildings all the way to new buildings. Now, net zero transformation is important in that it cannot be done simply by the government alone. It requires this contribution from all parts of the society. Many countries around the world are not seeing net zero as a burden of cost. Japan, for example, have this green growth strategy through achieving carbon neutrality in 2050. It has become an important driver for the second wave of growth for businesses. I remember visiting Japan, a lot of major shosha there. They have all established their dedicated ES task force in charge of energy transformation, because this major business think that energy transformation presents an opportunity for a turnaround, creating an opportunity or a second potential wave of growth. We know that Taiwan, the US, and Japan have all this understanding about how much the government should spend to drive private investment. These are some of the figures for your reference. Now, in terms of the decarbonization of sector, PPP is very important. So we are now leading the small ones with the big ones. The MOEA and the CNFI have established a carbon reduction industry alliance by inviting some of the traditional industry giants to come on board. We have a lot of ICT members joining our climate change alliance. Of course, it all requires PPP. And state-owned enterprises should take the lead. A lot of technologies should be experimented in some of our test beds. So these efforts will be led primarily by our SOEs. So our ITRI and III, Academia Sinica and ITRI will actually be in charge of some of the tech transfer projects, of course. Carbon inventory and relevant tools and guidelines are also important for SMEs to rely on. Last but not least, when it comes to tech innovation, to achieve the 2050 net zero target, a lot of technologies are still in the R&D phase. But of course, the sky's the limit. So our call to all of you is that when it comes to tech R&D and innovation, of course, we want to help businesses reduce emissions themselves, but they can also come up with another competitive edge. This is not about a cost concern. It's a new opportunity to be more competitive. So I will not dwell on the details. In closing, Net Zero Emissions 2050 is a cross-generation, interdisciplinary, and international transformation project that is critical to Taiwan's competitiveness in the next 30 years and enables the second growth curve for businesses. Also, importantly, some people might question that Taiwan's net zero transformation may run into a lot of roadblocks. Yes, indeed. We cannot proceed with business as usual. We are about to transform, so we require new policy tools, new technologies, new sources of innovation, etc. So among all the policies that the government have proposed, we hope to engage in further dialogue with society, and we will announce the details of our 12 core strategies. So I think step by step, we can all work together for us to achieve the 2050 target, and we can definitely tap into the second growth trend for Taiwan. Thank you.
Thank you to our speaker. Thank you. Please take your seat. We know that the pursuit of net zero transformation is key to elevating Taiwan's international competitiveness across all sectors. SEMI has been dedicated to building a platform for the government, academia, and research sector to have better communication and exchange for green energy policy. So we're very honored to have Mr. Terry Cao, Global Chief Marketing Officer and President of SEMI Taiwan, to tell us how SEMI is pushing forward the development of the energy sector in Taiwan and the world. Please welcome President Cao. Ladies and gentlemen, our friends from the media, good afternoon. First of all, on behalf of SEMI, I would like to thank the National Development Council. I would like to thank Deputy Minister Gao for shedding the light on how we are going about the green energy transition. At the same time, in SEMI, we have seen that Ministry of Economic Affairs and the National Development Council taking the lead in ushering how we will go about the policies. So as we talk about net zero transitions, the industrial associations and business activities as well as exhibitions can also echo the government's policies. This will create a synergy for us to transition to the future of net zero pursuit. So today, I'm very happy to be here on behalf of SEMI to talk about what SEMI has done in net zero transition and green transition. So like Deputy Minister Gao said, if you look across the world, around 137 countries have pledged to pursue net zero. So this actually accounts for 91% of the global GDP and 80% of the world's population. And it also accounts for 83% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. Around 18 countries have also codified carbon neutrality. So if you look at these major countries, and if you look at the International Energy Agency, by 2022, the renewable energy will see a new record high of additional installation capacity. And it is estimated that there will be 340 gigawatts added to the grid. By the end of this year, more policies will be announced. So if you look at this direction, you will see that this is irreversible and this is inevitable. As what Deputy Minister Gao said, more than 300 companies around the world have pledged to transitions to 100% of renewable energy. And in Taiwan, we also are working with Ørsted. And for example, TSMC also hope to procure 25% of renewable energy, and by 2050, they hope to achieve net zero carbon emissions. Actually, this has been echoed by many important figures. These targets may be ambitious. However, with renewable energy and net zero technology, the pursuit of net zero transitions will be achieved with the combination of technologies. So we hope that as we pursue net zero ambitions, there are two pillars we need to pay attention to. The first is to increase the use of renewable energy. Without renewable energy and operators like you, we will not be able to achieve this goal. And because of this, in Energy Taiwan 2022, we hope that we will help the awareness of the energy transition, because we know that all of the key players in the industry have been taking part in this event. So this has been stated by the Deputy Minister Gao, so I will skip this part. Let me please give you some examples here. So these are some of our members' operation, be it green transition, green manufacturing, green energy, and green circular economy. I think that this all points to the manufacturing transition. In the case of the semiconductor industry, TSMC also mentioned that by 2030, semiconductor industries will be the best performer or the best tool to be used for energy efficiency and net zero transition. By 2030, the semiconductor products will be able to save 3.27 million gigawatt hours around the world. So in the end, in SEMI, we actually established two platforms, the semiconductor manufacturing and supply chain. These are the two major energy consumers in Taiwan. Also, over the past 15 to 16 years, we have been working with the renewable energy players in Taiwan. We hope that through the platform established by SEMI, we will be able to bridge the gap for the demand and supply side. Over the past few years, SEMI across the world have established a sustainability advisory council. This is a part of our pursuit for sustainability. Actually, in Taiwan, over the past 1 year, we have a PV committee, wind energy committee, and storage committee. All of these three committees have been making suggestions to the government to install rooftop solar panels or to adopt more wind energy technologies or the port infrastructure. And we also hope that we will be able to help Taiwan aligned with the world's standard in terms of green energy. So there are also energy storage sector. All of these will require the collaboration between the government, the industry, and the general public. So in line with the government's policy with energy creation, energy storage, energy conservation, and green transition, we hope that we will be able to bridge Taiwan's gap towards the 2050 target. So this year, we worked with the Ministry of Economic Affairs in their week of the green energy, the Renewable Energy Week. We also co-hosted and organized some events and awards. We hope that this will help the discussion of net zero. I think that these exhibitions will be introduced later by our Vice President from TaiTra. But this year, the Energy Taiwan Week is actually the largest as we pursue the net zero and energy transition. All the industries will also be developed so that the exhibitions of this week also reflect that fact. Thank you.
谢，请回座。
Thank you, President Cao, for your presentation. Please be seated. This year's Energy Taiwan will include a broader and more comprehensive showcase of zero-carbon energy systems. And for the very first time, two exhibitions will be added. That is the Energy Power Taiwan and Net Zero Taiwan. A total of 12 countries and 6 national pavilions will be participating in the exhibition, allowing diverse opportunities for exchange. So what are some of the other highlights of this year's show? Let's give a round of applause to welcome the Executive Vice President of TAITRA, Ms. Elena Ni, to share with us. Please join me in welcoming Executive VP Li. Deputy Minister Gao from the NDC, President Cao of our organizer Semi-Taiwan, Vice President Shi of Taipower, President Shen of United Renewable Energy, Taiwan General Manager Wang of Orsted, Dr. Ai from Delta Electronics, distinguished guests, members from the press, good afternoon. On behalf of TAITRA, I would like to welcome you to the Energy Taiwan 2022 press conference. As we know, extreme weather patterns together with shortage of energy, well, as we just heard from our Deputy Mr. Gao, has made net zero transformations a common value for all economies. So actions to reduce carbon emissions will become an important task for country, businesses, and individuals alike. TAITRA and SEMI are very honored to co-host Energy Taiwan 2022 this year. And based on Deputy Ms. Gao's presentation, our government has already launched Taiwan's pathway to net zero emissions in 2050. We have already integrated our PV, smart storage, wind energy with the 3 key exhibitions. But this year, we'll have 2 new exhibitions being added. That is the Emerging Power Taiwan being one of them. This exhibition will focus on the 12 core key strategies and with a focus on forward-looking technologies and hydrogen, including geothermal, tidal power, small hydro, among others. And allow me to report to Deputy Minister Gao that thanks to PPP, our Emerging Power Taiwan actually will see the collaboration between the UK and Taiwan partners to establish a Taiwan-UK hydrogen pavilion. Now, we also have a new exhibition called Net Zero Taiwan. As Deputy Minister Gao just mentioned, we will feature green finance, green processes, smart energy management, and carbon reduction technologies and circular economies. These are some of the ways to help us transition faster to a net zero future. As we know, renewable energy and energy storage systems play an important role to achieve net zero transition. Now, from the scale of participation, we see that we see a double of growth of participants in smart storage Taiwan. So with that exhibition will feature smart storage application and systems, charging stations for EVs or e-scooters, and products and technology solutions for smart grids. And as for Wind Energy Taiwan, which dates back to 2017, this year we see a growth of 30%. So we will have vendors from Germany, Japan, Canada, and Denmark. So this exhibition has become a critical platform featuring underwater foundations to wind turbines, components, control system, and electric facilities. We will see the participation of vendors from home and abroad. So Wind Energy Taiwan actually is a great showcase of the localization ability of wind power development in Taiwan. As our MC Tracy just mentioned, we have 6 national pavilions: Belgium, Germany, the UK, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and Germany. And Finland and Sweden are participating in the Energy Taiwan exhibition for the first time. To generate more business opportunities, our international branches of TAITRA have invited 65 60 international buyers from 27 countries. There will be a total of 170 sessions of business matching, as President Cao mentioned in his presentation. On the second day of business of Energy Taiwan, there will be a forum inviting speakers from Canada, the UK, CPC, TCI to engage in topical discussions. There will also be keynote exchanges to leverage more business Taiwan opportunities. Now, we also have this Energy Taiwan Sustainability Award. With this award, we hope to encourage our participating vendors to really adopt ESG principles. They can adopt, for example, sustainable design, sustainable materials, or sustainable use experience. On the closing day, we will announce 4 winners of this year's Sustainability Award. Last but not least, the Energy Taiwan 2022, despite the pandemic, will be held. We just opened our border last Thursday, but actually we have 4 superlatives to share with you. First, we will have the most promising industry prospect to share with you, right? And secondly, this year, we will see the most significant growth in exhibition scale. The third superlative is that we will introduce the most complete renewable energy solutions. And fourth, we will boast the most diversified international exchange. Actually, I'm looking at our Director Shi from the exhibition section. They are in charge of the exhibition. I'm just reading out from the text they provided us, all thanks to them. We want to implement PPP, and we actually made advanced preparations by working with SEMI. So towards 2050, as we reach net zero, we want to play one of the most important roles here. We would like to thank all the businesses and vendors for continuing to improve themselves in terms of net zero technologies and solutions and participating in Energy Taiwan 2022 so that we can put Taiwan on the map by showcasing Taiwan's ambition to become the green energy center of the Asia-Pacific region. Finally, I would like to thank all the guests and media partners for joining us at the press conference of Energy Taiwan. Wish you all good health and best of everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our Executive Vice President. Now we are proceeding to a group photo. So if you would like to take a photo of our distinguished guests, please approach. We are now going to invite our guest onto the stage. Please welcome Deputy Minister Gao Xiangui from National Development Council, and Mr. Terry Cao, CMO and President of SEMI Taiwan, and Mr. Xu Zaohua, Vice President of Tai Power Company, and Andy Shen, President of Solar Business United Renewable Energy, and Ms. Christy Wang from Taiwan, General Manager of Ørsted, Dr. Paul Ai, Senior Director of Energy System Solution Business Department of Delta Electronics. So please look forward to the camera. Please look at the center. Please show a thumbs up for our cameraman and photographers. We wish a big success of the Energy Taiwan Week this year. So can we please have our distinguished guests on the stage to remove their masks for a while, because the camera you will look better in front of the cameras without your mask on. Once again, we would like to wish the Energy Taiwan 2022 a big success, and we also wish that Taiwan will become a green energy center in the Asia-Pacific region. Once again, thank you all, and we would like to thank all the distinguished guests for coming here today. Please take your seat. We know that the energy, sustainable energy, and the net zero transition is the target. But we would, of course, like to know what the challenges that we will be facing. So today we are very honored to have invited our speaker, Vice President Xu Zaohua from Taiwan Power Company, to shed some light for us.
好，高副主委，我们曹总裁。
Deputy Minister Gao, President Cao, Executive Vice President Li, Mr. Andy Shen, and Ms. Christy Wang, and Dr. Paul Ai, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So I'm from Taiwan Power Company. Actually, there are 12 key strategies from the government. 7 of them have to do with the Thai Power Company. So today I am going to talk about some of the key strategies. Given the short period of time that I have here, I will try to be brief. Actually, when I was little, my mom had to cook on the wood-fired stove, and the train that we took was actually coal-fired. And later on, the coal-fired and the wood-fired stove have been replaced by natural gas, and the trains have become the locomotives that we've seen today, and the air pollution problems become the problem of the Thai Power Company. So back in the days, people would take the coach buses, and now people would like to take the high-speed train. So where did all the carbon dioxide go? All of them now come back to Thai Power Company. So the net zero transition has to do with electrification, and Thai Power will play a great role in this. So all of the energy consumption in the future will only increase. So according to Deputy Minister Gao said, we need to increase 50% of the power generation. So be it the coal-fired trains or the wood-fired stove, all of the problems now fall, or the burdens fall on the shoulder of the Thai Power. So the electricity consumption and the electricity carbon emission factor are key. Now we have an electricity carbon emission factor at 0.502 carbon dioxide equivalent, and the electricity consumption will be affected by electrification, economic growth, and extreme weather. So how we go about the use of offshore wind energy or solar energy will affect whether or not we can reduce the electricity carbon emission. So, like I said, the key factors now fall on the electricity consumption and electricity carbon emission factor. So, in the Energy Taiwan Week, we hope to, so what we are trying to do now is to lower the electricity carbon emission factor. So, like I said, we will have many offshore wind power facilities being installed in Taiwan. They will play a very important role in Taiwan's pursuit of net zero transition. So exactly what are the challenges that the Taiwan Power Company will face? Actually, in renewables, in 2019, our renewables only accounted for 5.6%, but by 2030, we hope to increase them to 60 to 70%. So you have to know that this is a big challenge, because the low carbon energy or net zero energy will have to come in. How will the Thai Power's grid cope with this challenge? How can we go about smart management and control? This will be very crucial to Taiwan's net zero transition. So there are $546 billion have been allocated to our transition efforts, and a large part of them has to do with the connection of renewable energy to our grid. Now, the thermal power will have a lower share in our energy mix. So in the future, we will try to mix hydrogen and pumped hydro storage. So there are three things we would like to share here. Can I please remove my mask? Thank you. I think that I am kind of excited right now, so I really need to remove my mask. So there are supply side, grid side, and demand side. So what I would like to say is that the low carbon electricity or net zero electricity will have to go through different stages. So we will have to increase the use of natural gases and green expansion to achieve that. But you know that people cannot wait for us to finish the transition phase. So it is important for us to secure power supply as we go about the transitions. So what we do here is we will increase the use of natural gas. So from north to south, we have actually had a lot of infrastructure projects from Taoyuan or Tainan or Kaohsiung. We have a lot of liquid natural gases plants that have been evaluated or are evaluated by the government. So that with all of that, we hope that we can lower the use of coal. At the same time, we hope that we can mix hydrogen with the use of natural gas and to mix ammonia with coal. And we hope that we will be able to go about CCSU, carbon capture, storage, and utilization. With that, we will be able to capture the carbon emissions that we cannot reduce. So once if we cannot achieve a stable grid, the storage will become key. There are pumped hydro storage and battery storage. We have 2.6 gigawatt capacity in Riyuetan. So with solar power, we can pump water. Without the solar energy, we can release the water so that we can store the power. In addition to that, we also have the battery storage, and we also have a lot of grid support services. By 2025, we have 1.5 gigawatts allocated, and 500 megawatts are from AFC. And there are also 500 megawatts from energy storage. So all in all, energy efficiency is very important. Now, given the time strain, I will skip this part. Now, actually, we have two stages, 2030 and 2050. From now to 2050, it is very difficult for us to predict. So we have set the goals for 2030. Actually, in 1999, I was actually an engineer for the hydrogen power generation. So it was very difficult for us to go about the terrain drawings. You know, it was very difficult back then without all the technologies that we have now, because now you can simply use your watches and then everything will be tracked. However, back in my day, it's very difficult for us to imagine things would become this way it is nowadays. So we can't really imagine what would happen in 2050. So I think it's much more feasible for us to predict what can happen in 2030. So we have set some clear goals for 2030. Also, we have signed a hydrogen mixing technology MOU with Siemens. So we also have another project for Tainan Qigu Yantian Solar Energy Storage Project. And we also have a booth that has to do with the energy storage project. So please welcome to the booth and check out some of the technologies that we have. So coming back to what we said earlier, if you want to have zero kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent, you will have to take a look at the two factors here, electricity consumption and electricity carbon emission factors. So we spent a lot of efforts on how to reduce electricity carbon emission factors. Another thing we need to do is to reduce the electricity consumption. So what can we do now? It's all about energy efficiency. Thank you.
非常
Thank you very much, Vice President Xu, for your insightful presentation. Green energy solutions will be the technology industry of the next generation. And recent years, solar farms and energy storage systems have become an internationally recognized industry trend. What are some of the opportunities and challenges? We're very pleased to invite President Andy Shen of Solar Business from United Renewable Energy to explain to us today. Let's welcome President Shen. Deputy Minister, President Cao, business leaders, partners in the energy industry, members from the press, good afternoon. The year 2023, that is in the next 2 years, are fraught with challenges. It's true not only for the world, but also for Taiwan. Meanwhile, we also can enjoy a lot of opportunities. In the next 2 to 3 years, we will also face a lot of uncertainties, as we see from media reports. But we will also have crystal clear targets and directions to work towards. As Deputy Minister Gao just mentioned, Taiwan has announced its 2050 pathway to net zero emissions. So I would like to spend the next minutes explain to you what we can do as a solar energy or renewable energy company. Now, in the next 2 years, what are some of our opportunities in the macro environment? Now, globally, what are some of the challenges and what are some of the opportunities closer to home? The US, for example, has already passed its IRA, or Inflation Reduction Act. It's a critical milestone in the US environmental protection industry. It has great implications for not only the States, but also Taiwan, because we export a lot of products to the States. Our companies is also exporting to the States. As Deputy Minister just mentioned, Japan, the EU, and even India are also some of our key markets. They have already announced some important policy directions which present a new set of opportunities. And also, Deputy Minister Gao also mentioned REI 100. We are also signing up to that. Now, the Russia-Ukraine war poses a great challenge to the world, but also generates new opportunity because of the rising cost of energy, creating more space for the development of renewable energy. For example, we have seen that new opportunities being generated in the US, EU, and some of the emerging economies. At the same time, there is one of the mega trends taking place. So we see the shortening of supply chain unseen before. Of course, SEMI is one of the co-organizers today. So SEMI is in charge of the semiconductor industry. President Biden has reiterated the importance of local manufacturing of semiconductors. For example, TSMC and Samsung have all invested in the States one after another. Taiwan can also do the same. We need to build our local manufacturing capability. It should go beyond maintaining our current manufacturing presence. We need to further lengthen our local supply chain. For example, we produce solar panels and solar batteries, but we will work further with our upstream vendors to develop new solar materials in order to build a solid foundation for solar manufacturing and to create a more robust solar supply chain. We also work with the solar storage systems. Allow me to explain this point in the next few slides. Okay, the screen is frozen. Yes. So I never use a remote control at home. Anyways, let's take the U.S. as an example. They just passed the Inflation Reduction Act, or the IRA. Within this package, it has actually a comprehensive policies tools or design for renewable energy and solar energy. For example, there's investment tax credits extended for the financial sectors. And for the manufacturing sector, they are focusing on local manufacturing. Different from other countries, the U.S. on the left-hand side will see a growth of storage deployment and solar deployment. You see that this share for the storage and deployment is quite even for the U.S., but Taiwan, it's a ratio of 10-1. So there's a huge room for growth for Taiwan to aggressively lower the burden on grids. So Taipower can probably rest assured we can have storage capacities built first before connecting to the grid. When you have sound policy packages to drive the development for businesses, this is a forecast from marketing forecast agencies. So in the next few years, the U.S. will see substantial growth in both storage deployment and solar deployment, all thanks to its policy. Of course, with opportunities comes challenges. I just list some of the major ones, as you see from the media. In the financial sector, we face the rising interest rates, in particular in the States, in Taiwan, and other major central banks. Rising interest rate will actually stem investment appetite. And also there's a rising commodity costs and rising inflation. Now, whether it's in the US, the EU, or our partners in Germany are now facing high inflationary pressures. Policies are also changing rapidly. Believe it or not, we are in the energy sector, for sure. We are actually a policy-driven, a policy-oriented sector, which is very different from consumer sectors. So we rely heavily on the right policies to grow. So we definitely need to stay up to date on some of the latest policy change in order to get ahead of the curve to leverage business opportunities. Of course, there are rising competition among major powers thanks to geopolitical tensions. That will have major implications for supply chain. You'll try to look for like-minded partners to make your procurement. So originally just purchase products from certain countries, but thanks to geopolitical concerns and competition among major powers, we may look to procure from like-minded partners only. So it will present both challenges and opportunities. In terms of industry development investment, we will see rising labor cost. Sometimes we face a shortage of labor. A lot of laborers now prefer to work at TSMC. So sometimes we train our engineers, but the other day just leave our company and they are poached by larger companies. Now, land, feeder lines, and import from third countries are all challenges. How can we respond? Well, this is my closing slide. With opportunities and challenges, we need to stand firm and have the right resolve to achieve our target. Simply put, globally, the installed capacity of solar PV will continue to grow into next year. There will be more than 200 gigawatt newly installed capacity. But in Taiwan, we have 3 gigawatt and 2 gigawatt of annual addition. It seems minimal, but it's still an important market segment. That's from the demand side. And in terms of supply, second only to China, Taiwan is the second largest manufacturing country of solar-related products. So that's something we really take pride in. But we also set high expectations on ourselves to produce more locally. But we also think about how we can overcome the challenges in terms of land acquisition and feeder line deployment. Well, Deputy Ms. Gao just mentioned that after 2015, we'll newly add 2 gigawatt of solar installed capacity every year. But in the next 3 years, we have a higher expectation. We want to have 3 gigawatt every year for new installed capacity. So it requires the participation of business partners and the government to achieve that target. And we also need to think about how to realize local manufacturing. One thing is key. We need to have a good control or clear regulations governing import from third countries. In so doing, some of the power generation companies can be sustainable without suffering from unclear product origins. That will have a dire consequences for our power generation performance. Now, we also have to encourage local manufacturing. We hope to work with the MOEA and BOE to introduce higher portions of VPC, voluntary product certification. This is our policy recommendation. Last but not least, we'll work with storage partners, such as Delta Electronics, to come up with more energy storage solutions. We'll definitely work with all of you. Let's work together and hope for the realization of 3 gigawatt installation.
Thank you. Now, we are going to talk about offshore wind energy. Offshore wind energy has become a vital element of the world's energy transition. Taiwan boasts ideal conditions to develop wind farms. The government and the energy sector have been promoting related technology development. To understand the key development trend and market opportunities in the future, we are very glad to invite Ms. Christy Wang, Taiwan General Manager of Ørsted, to share her insights with us. Please welcome Ms. Christy Wang. Thank you to our Deputy Minister Gao and President Terry Tao, Dr. Paul Ai from Delta Electronics, and Vice President Xi from Tai Power Company. So as a company making its business footprint in Taiwan for more than 6 years, it is very honor for us to be here to give this presentation. So actually, we've heard about the previous speakers talk about the energy transition's role in Taiwan's roadmap towards 2050. As you can see in this slide, I think there are some stories behind this picture. You know, the renewable energy for so many people might be a far-reached story. This is actually a picture taken in Zhanghua. However, in this very particular wind farms, you can see the collaborative efforts of local vendors and international companies as well as other key players. This wind turbine vessel is actually manufactured in Taiwan, and this is the only offshore wind farms with a with such a facility. I think that such a facility is a pride of Taiwan. This is a short-term result from our collaborative efforts. So I hope that going forward, we will have more of these projects to come, and it will, of course, help Taiwan usher into the era of net zero. So there are 4 trends that I would like to share with you here. And these 4 trends are not limited in Taiwan only. You can see them across the world. Actually, if you look at the wind energy sector in response to climate change, all the power plants in the world have been deploying the offshore wind power, and governments around the world have set goals for offshore wind powers. So you can see this from Europe, Asia Pacific, and other regions of the world. They have also all set the target for offshore wind power. And the next trend is the large-scale wind turbines and floating wind farm technology. All of these are ongoing right now. The third trend has to do with the latest technology. For example, hydrogen technology or the renewable fuels or the storage systems. offshore wind power is not a single energy source. With the combination of other technology, offshore wind power can become a very stable and secure power source. At the same time, you can see across all sectors, targets have been set to achieve net zero transition. So I would like to now elaborate on these four trends. The first has to do with the establishment or installation of offshore wind power. Following the Ukraine and Russia war, the power supply has become a key problem. So governments around the world have been trying to ramp up their efforts in offshore wind energy. So Netherlands, Belgium, and other European countries have been facing the problem or taking the brunt of the Ukraine-Russia war. And this is the statistics from this year. At the same time, in Taiwan, we are undergoing the Phase 3 block development. Our sites are relatively smaller, so there will be some challenges in the future. So in Europe and other countries, for example, the US and Vietnam, the potential sites are larger. With larger sites, they will attract more resources, including manpower and funds or financial resources. So all of these things are the challenges that Taiwan will have to face. The second trend that I would like to talk about is the large-scale wind turbines. So in Taiwan's second phase, the wind farms that will be completed in 2025 and 25 will have larger installation capacity. So they will be very different from the 8 gigawatt facility that we saw in the previous slide. So as you can see on the slide, they will have a larger scale. With larger installation capacity, they will have more generation capacity as well. With this large scale infrastructure, the port infrastructure, of course, will have to keep up. So in the Phase 3 block development, with such a big wind turbine, the port infrastructure and the storage rooms and storage spaces will have to work with this large-scale wind turbine. Also, on latest technology such as floating wind farm technology, in some European countries, they have established the offshore wind farms. So they are now looking forward into the development of floating wind farm technology. And therefore, they have rolled out a lot of supporting measures. So the floating wind farm technology will become more mature and they will be put into commercial operation. But the problem now comes again with the infrastructure, port, and other infrastructure. And also, they will have to face the problem of coexisting with the ocean ecology. I think that this is another challenge that we have been discussing recently. In response to the innovative energy technology, I think that this is a blueprint for us. We will have to focus on the wind farms, which will be a key role. However, it's just one dot. We have to connect the different dots so that we can have more secure and stable power supply. So the first thing is we have to have large-scale renewable energy. And in Europe, you can see many international projects and energy islands. And these projects and islands will help the development of offshore wind power. Also, renewable hydrogen and green fuels will help many industries go about decarbonization. As Deputy Minister Gao mentioned, the transportation sector and other sectors may not be able to use the green energy. Therefore, they will have to rely on renewable hydrogen or green fuels. At the same time, integrate smart energy systems such as the storage system and grid resilience are also very important for us to develop diverse renewable energy customers. So in the past, Taiwan only has one player, that is Taipower, but in the future, we hope that more players will be joining us. At the same time, we need to go about decarbonization of the supply chain. For example, building these infrastructure will also create a lot of carbon emissions. That is why decarbonization has become a crucial factor for us to pursue net zero. So actually in Ørsted, in the beginning of this year, we announced that all of our vendors in our supply chains can pledge to use RE100, to abide by RE100 by 2025. So all of the vendors, such as the ship manufacturers and other vendors, we hope that the farm industry, the wind energy farm, will take the lead. And by 2040, we will be able to achieve carbon neutrality. We hope that Ørsted, along with its supply chain, can all achieve carbon neutrality. At the same time, we hope to maintain a balance between the development of energy and the ecology. So we have this new concept. How can we balance the sustainable development of the ecology? So we have been conducting a project called ReCoral. This coral project has been carried out with the research institute in Penghu. In the spring seasons, we are working with the institute to grow health coral colonies on offshore wind turbine foundations. We hope that this project will bear fruits and we can share the result with other companies and expand the applications. So if we would like to accelerate the deployment of offshore wind power, we have 4 suggestions. The first is to increase a interdepartmental coordinative platforms. We know that a lot of the meetings are very time-consuming. And also, we would like to see more flexibility granted to foreign large turbine installation vessels. We hope that the review and the permissions can be expedited. And this will also facilitate the development of wind energy in Taiwan. And also, we need to enhance the grid capacity and resilience, as well as the port infrastructure. Last but not least, we hope that we can achieve a sound development for the industry. The international and domestic vendors can work together. In line with the time frame set up by the companies, we hope that we will implement flexible industry-related policies. Last but not least, our vision is to create a world solely reliant on green energy. Over the past 5 to 6 years, our presence in Taiwan has allowed us to see that some of the farm projects have been completed, but this is only a beginning. We hope that we will help Taiwan achieve net zero. This is only a beginning. We hope that we can continue to work with the government and the industry and other parts of the society. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Wang, for the presentation. Since renewable energy is limited by geography and weather, how to effectively store, manage, and monitor electricity and energy will be key to the future development of the industry. It is very important to establish a reliable, stable, and safe and efficient and intelligent power supply mode so that enterprises and society can develop sustainably. As such, energy storage technology is key. To this end, we have invited Dr. Paul Ai, Senior Director of Energy System Solutions Business Department of Delta Electronics, to talk about the technology trends of energy storage battery products and industry opportunities in Taiwan. Let's welcome Senior Director Ai. Thank you very much. Deputy Minister Gao. President Cao and Vice President Xu from Taipower, and our speakers from the industry. I'm on behalf of Delta and also Semi's Smart Committee. I'm very happy to share with you some of the industry opportunities for energy, battery products, and storage products. Well, because of the trends towards RE and renewable energy, we see smart grids have been transforming. Now we see a kind of distributed energy grid, smart energy grid that works on a bilateral manner. Now we see different terminals like family, households, smart factories, smart charging stations, and microgrids. Now, the way we see it is that, let me present this growth trajectory to all of you. Now, from traditional power generation to low carbon green energy, first, in terms of energy storage, we can actually smoothen the curve for solar energy. We can use AFC. So a lot of media members actually asked me about AFC. What can we do next after AFC? It marks just the beginning, because now we see the intermittent nature of RE. So at the farm level, we need to embed solar storage capacities in order to stabilize power supply. That's for RE farm. But for Taipower, they don't see the standalone generation sites. They want to see the stability of the entire grid. They want to leverage FC to stabilize power distribution to the users. So FC actually can help us adjust the stability of the grid. And we want to flatten the curve for solar. Second step is that once renewable energy rises in share in the energy mix, we need to have a long-term energy modal shift. In Taiwan, it takes about 2 to 3 hours, but in California, other places, it takes about 4 to 6 hours. And in Southeast Asia, sometimes they have this called capacity firming approach. So before 10 p.m. every day, at the solar farms, you need to supply dedicated amount of energy. So it can be as long as 8 to 10 hours long. The next stage is that, well, Taipower is already making advanced preparations. We're really grateful for the TPC, for reaching out to Delta Electronics and storage companies. We are not actually talking about the power management on microgrids in response to a higher share of renewable energy, because it goes beyond simple energy shift, because you need to have a micro-level grid management for power consumption, distribution, and transmission, all done at the local level. So they can feed the power back to the grid and also receive power from the grid to minimize loss factor. And the last mile, the last piece of the puzzle, is being implemented at the community level. So that will happen as the last mile. This is how we foresee or envision the growth trajectory. Now we see the deployment of many charging piles. One charging pile can actually contribute a bigger load than the households. So we need to have smart energy management system to store the power off-peak and also unload the power to the EV during peak hours. I'm going to share with you of our case studies in our European headquarters about how we can use solar and storage system to provide charging services. Now we have DREG and EDREG. DREG is ongoing. It's for variable AFC. Its application amount is as high as 4 gigawatt, higher than expectation. But maybe we cannot fulfill the entire ambition due to capacity constraints. But in the future, we will have enhanced REG. In the trend of energy shift, we just do not want to rely on one energy storage systems. You have considered the capacity constraints, site constraint, and together with AFC, I think enhanced REG will be really promising. And that is the number of applications by the end of September. So now, about 3,000 megawatt have been approved out of the 4,700 megawatt, but we'll have environmental, time, and land constraints. I think we'll probably have 1 to 2 gigawatt being implemented, which will meet our demand. And also, energy shift is also important. The BOE and SEMI committee and Taipower had already engaged in fruitful discussions. We're happy to see that this June, BOE has introduced relevant policy to 500 megawatt by 2024 for solar power storage. That is for existing solar farms to effectively use its high voltage feeder lines and existing sites. Because sometimes they release their additional power in different times. They want to maximize the power use efficiency in order to boost the adoption of RE. Now, in terms of microgrid at the local level, we are just making advanced preparations because we see a lot of disasters, natural catastrophes taking place. We need to have disaster-proof community resilience. So TPC has already released some of the power substations. They invite vendors to conduct site surveys. So we propose to Taipower about how we are going to design this kind of green forming together with solar power in order to have better control of power distribution. We want to establish this local level microgrid. So all these components can be integrated to this centralized microgrid. Of course, as vehicles become electrified, they will actually have new concerns. For example, they will have energy concerns, energy consumption needs. If everyone charges their EVs at the same time, that's a huge load for the grid. So you can store the energy in advance. Together with RE, you can actually have sound management of EV energy consumption. Now, this is our architecture for solar storage. This is an actual case study about the installation of charging piles and its implications for power consumption for companies. This is our EU headquarters in the Netherlands. In the US and Taiwan, now we have different behaviors. For example, people have to drive 1 to 2 hours to work in the West. But now in Taiwan, we can charge at home. But in the West, they charge at the office building because they have to drive 1 to 2 hours per commute. So there we see different behavioral differences across the hemispheres. For the blue part, that's the charging needs for the charging pile. So maybe from 8 o'clock onward, they will start to peak. But now let's see, our contract demand is 50 kilowatt. That's our EU headquarters. So we want to flatten the peak. So now on the daytime, we will keep it at below 50 kilowatt, below the contract value. That's called the meter tracking. We also have smart charging capacities. For example, we can lengthen the time so that we can keep the demand on the daytime below the contract value. So in Q1, we've saved about 15% on electricity bills. Our European colleagues, because of the Ukraine war, now have already to go back to burn timber to generate power. So we see this return to traditional ways of doing things. So energy storage will definitely influence the development of the sector. Now, in terms of technology trends, there are a lot of new battery technologies. Batteries have moved through a lot of reiterations and evolution. SOC is really difficult to manage. It's very complicated, but I just skipped the detail. Safety certification has become more stringent. Density needs to be higher than 3 megawatt hour and 20 feet, less than 30 tons. And then we have to have PCS. The power now ranges from 2 mega, 3 mega, all the way to 5 megawatt. So we need to water cooling in place above 2 kilowatt. We also need to, for example, if we want to have PCS, the demand is higher for the main grid. Also, the SVG and seamless switching, multi-string or multi-DC bus are also important because the duration has been now being longer, so you cannot manage too many battery racks at the same time. Now, ENAs is now cloud-based. It can store large amounts of data with huge computing power and short charging time. That's the technical requirements. So that's a representation from Delta. Thank you very much, Senior Director I, for the presentation. Members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end for the press conference for Energy Taiwan 2022. Thank you very much for joining us. Now I can open the floor for media members to engage in a dialogue with our speakers. We look forward to seeing you again at Energy Taiwan 2022 at Taipei Nangang Exhibition Hall. Thank you very much.